All right. Excellent. Hello, everybody. Mike Monty here from ACSA. If people arrive in the waiting room, I'm going to let them in, but thank you for joining. This is another one of our open discussions, and as we were, the conveners were discussing before we all let everyone else in, what's said today could change in about 10 minutes, but we're going to do our best to talk about what's happening at our schools, the challenges that we're facing, and the point of this is to share and share alike and listen to what everyone's saying. So to be good listeners and good conversants, we will hear from our four facilitators just for a couple minutes each. We will take 3 polls just to collect some data, and then you will see the results of on screen as we do it. And then we'll break into rooms, and you can have discussions. And then for the last 20 minutes at about 10 after 6 Eastern time, we will all get back together and do some quick report outs. And if we need to make some connections or dive a little deeper into some particularly common things, we will. So without any other delay, I'm going to introduce Lynn Dearborn, who will speak first of our conveners. Lynn, we don't see you on screen.
Hi, everybody.
Yet. We may not.
Well, I was going to say I'll try that. We are having internet issues. There we go. Here I am. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this discussion. Very briefly, here at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, I guess in true Big Ten fashion, the university created a whole new test situation for COVID. They started from scratch, and we have the ability to test on campus, which at a very large capacity, and which they thought was going to ensure that we would be able to have in-person classes. However, we've recently had an uptick in the local population, which is not very big here. And so when you think that when we add the student population to our local population, we increase it by about 1/3. So the potential impact of that is significant. How is it affecting our architecture program? There are many faculty who are concerned about having in-person classes. They're concerned about having to interact with 18-year-olds who are leaving home for the first time, as well as other students who may not necessarily take the situation as seriously as they might. We are discussing a number of in-person, hybrid, and online-only formats. And I will leave it at that and hand it over to Robert.
Great. All right. Reporting from Albuquerque, the University of New Mexico. I'm actually in Santa Fe today, where I've been hunkering down the entire time. But we are also working with plans across campus. We actually have a check-in that we do daily if we ever come to campus, where we have to, via email, let the university know whether we're coming in or not. And if we are, then answer a series of questions. And we have to do that every day. So that's been a good way, a good record-keeping process for the university. And planning for the fall, we are asking all of our staff to stay home for the entire fall. We've been able to run the school successfully with no one in the building. So we're going to continue with that, with the caveat that they might be asked if we needed them to be there. To support our efforts in transitioning in, we've set up a building safety COVID-19 committee that is working with the physical aspects of reentry, including materials that we have to buy, signage, and all types of coordinations that we have to do across campus to kind of be in sync with what everyone else is doing. And then we've also formed an in-house committee that is also looking at studio culture and life culture that Michael Bright is on, to try to ensure that we are going to give our students a good experience regardless of how we end up teaching. The university came up with like 5 or 6 different modalities for teaching, which has caused a little bit of confusion. And we're going to start a series of workshops, or not workshops, but meetings with faculty who are teaching in each modality, so we can go over with them exactly what's expected, and our tech people will be part of that. But the other message that we've sent out to our faculty is that all courses should be created for the fall semester as if they were fully online. And so that there are no surprises down the road, because our numbers have also been going up. So the beginning should be a fully online course that has some face-to-face moments along the way, but if those went away, that would be okay. And also that our first week is fully online, because we're asking folks to come back to Albuquerque a week early, and like that they would have 2 weeks of self-quarantining our faculty and our also, so that everyone could be safe. And then the last thing that I want to mention, which is a new thing that's come up in our admin meeting, is that we're working on a standard disclaimer, rules, new way of life, that will be a blurb that every faculty member can insert in their syllabus, so that not every faculty member is sort of reinventing the language. And then we're going to share that. So that'll talk about things like the requirement of wearing a mask and anything else that we institute. Great. So I'll hand it over now to Marilise Nepomechi.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I hail out of Florida International University in Miami, Florida. And FIU is an urban public research one university. It's one of the largest in the US. And it's located in Miami. It's a sprawling, it's diverse, it's multicultural, it's international, all of those things that we haven't really been able to see up close since mid-March. And as you've probably seen in the news, it's also among the newest epicenters for the virus. So as we have been making our academic continuity plans for the fall, some things that seem to be okay a month ago are maybe seeming less okay today. The university is still talking about reopening campus in some way at the end of August. So August 24th is our official first day of class. The FIU has 2 major campuses and several smaller ones. The actual date for administrators and others to return to campus has been pushed back a number of times since we closed down in the middle of March. Nonetheless, we are completing by most measures a quite successful summer term at FIU. It's entirely remote or online. Obviously, there's been no study abroad. We found new uses for our robotics and our 3D printers. Like many universities, we've been producing PPE for medical personnel all over the city and the region. But for the fall, we're looking at the university has created an app that they will ask everyone to check in with every day before they're allowed on campus. It's intended to be a record of daily temperature and some kind of self-assessment of behavior and how you're feeling. We haven't seen the app yet, but they're talking about it. There are mandatory masks, and they're going to provide these for students and for faculty. There's a robust testing protocol and a tracking protocol that are a part of what the university is putting together. They have been retooling the campus for over a month in terms of capacities of several classrooms and rooms across campus, new spatial arrangements at approximately a third of the size of their traditional capacity, rotating schedules, a range of modalities, as Robert said and as Lynn said about their classes. They're looking at ventilation systems. Like most buildings in the US, our windows don't open. So all of the things that accrued to those shortcomings are alive and well. I have a colleague in the landscape architecture program that is working with FIU facilities to look at potential for using outside spaces. So the exterior infrastructure of the campus, remember we are a subtropical climate. So barring hurricanes, it is one of the options out there, at least in principle. In terms of instructional modalities, we've hired in the college a new online coordinator who is working with faculty and with FIU online. They've assigned instructional designers to all faculty who are doing online classes for the first time. We, college-wide, in the college where I work, where maybe 80% of our courses are remote or online. That said that the other 20% were either going to be hybrid or face-to-face. Those things are all being reevaluated now. It wouldn't surprise me if by the time next month rolls around, we were at 90 to 95% remote. And we are looking at synchronous and asynchronous, certified, not certified versions of all of these. Challenges, keeping new and continuing students engaged, especially the younger students without experience in the university and in studio culture, rethinking the experiential learning and doing that's at the core of our work as educators in architecture, working with and supporting our vulnerable populations, and those include our international students who need housing because they were never able to go home in the first place, local students who don't have adequate spaces to work at home and who need access to technology and connectivity. We have lent out many, many laptops over the course of the last 4 months, and portable Wi-Fi equipment. The campus has remained open with Wi-Fi so that students could go and sit outside and work if they needed to. We, of course, are working with faculty and staff and students who are themselves at risk or vulnerable. They live in extended family groups, which is not unusual in Miami, and with others who are themselves vulnerable. And I guess not least of the challenges and a significant overlay to all of this is dealing with, addressing in any way we can, the social justice and DEI issues that have been so much a part of our conversation. And these are concerns, obviously, of our students, our colleagues, and our staff. The School of Architecture has created a series of weekly forums that are looking at curriculum, at lecture series, at hiring, at admissions, at projects, at scholarships, at fundings, and at opportunities. Anyway, no lack of things to talk about. I will pass this over now to Jose.
Hi, everyone from Charlotte, North Carolina. Much of what has been said will get repeated a little bit here. We are in a landscape, as you all probably know, that is dead set on having in-person courses. The UNC system made that announcement a few weeks back. Of course, it's all contingent on the state not spiking. We've been relatively level, but that can change at any moment, as other folks have said. The School of Architecture has been online since about March. We made a decision to go online early through remote learning, and we've held to that. We've been pretty consistent. The fall, however, about 80% of our classes probably will be online. All large lectures. Large for us is anything above 30 people, because we simply don't have classrooms that hold people of that size outside a studio. But all lecture classes that are relatively large will go online. Studios, however, are almost all hybrid. We polled our faculty and our students several times. Over 90% of the students said that the one thing they lamented most was being in the studio with their colleagues and their faculty, not so much necessarily for the instructional content, but the cultural content and the ability to talk with their peers and share ideas. That was a huge detriment to their engagement, and they acknowledged that in a couple of surveys that we've had. Faculty too, surprisingly, had been also largely in favor of in-person or some kind of hybrid format, which is what we're planning to offer in the fall. Outside of studio, virtually everything's going online except for small seminars, which are not comprehensive to the entire population, obviously. Our building, like other buildings, our campus, like other campuses, are being retooled, rebranded with all kinds of wayfinding that directs people in and out and what have you. Every incoming student and returning student and faculty will be given a welcome back kit or a welcome to campus kit that will include branded, I'm sure, reusable face masks, a few disposable face masks, hand sanitizer. There are a number of things being developed around behavior policy, culture policies at the campus level and at the school and college level. As other folks have said, that will be added to boilerplate syllabus. Masks are mandatory now and will be going forward for everyone on campus. I believe that's true of all UNC campuses. We in Charlotte will be opening 2 weeks late. So we will open on September 7th, I believe it is. That was initially a response to the RNC convention that was scheduled to be here, which is now traveling down to Florida and may not be occurring in its original format there either. But we've held to that late start date in part to give everyone more time to prepare. And as our phase 2 just got extended, we're seeing that extra time is going to be necessary. Faculty have been taking advantage of resources online. The UNC system has a series of workshops ongoing that folks can take self-paced around instructional design for online coursework. We've been participating in a number of national events like this one to talk about experiential learning that's so crucial for a college of arts and architecture or schools of architecture, particularly around the studio and what that might mean in terms of remote or online learning and how we might enhance what we're doing and take advantage of the technology that we have that allows us to be a little more flexible. We will be looking at exterior spaces, outside spaces. I know NC State has rented a number of tents, and NC State School of Architecture will be borrowing some outside space as well. It's a little hot and muggy, but Wi-Fi is everywhere, so it should be able to accommodate much of our needs. As we inch closer to the fall, we're finding from faculty in particular that there are more and more folks with trepidation about returning. So we've begun to plan for a series of online studio sections, but the majority of them will be in person. Although there are folks who have reasons that we're not asking for, but if they've got a concern, they can elect to go online, and we expect that as things inch closer, we might have another one or two that take that opportunity. But at the moment, studios are largely in person. Lectures are going to be virtual if we have them. Events will be virtual if we have them. I think that we're looking probably now not just at fall, but beginning to put in place contingency plans for spring. I don't personally, this is not me speaking for the university, but this is me speaking for myself. I don't see us resetting over the winter break. And I'm not sure that there will be a vaccine available to each and every one of us by early January. That suggests to me that whatever we put in place for fall is likely to be the footprint for the spring, unless some major innovation comes about that we can all take advantage of. So not to repeat too many other things that other folks have said, I think I'll stop there. Robert, who do I hand this off to now?
I think it's me.
No one, Michael.
Michael.
Yep. Okay. We're going to take 3 polls here, and I'm going to give you a chance to fill out the poll through the Zoom interface, please. And I'll give you some time to see the results of each question or set of questions. I will also publish the results when we publish the recording of this main room. So first question coming up. Pretty simple one. And while you're doing that, I'll point you to the chat also, where Karma, the executive director of AIS, posted a link to a dashboard that shows what university plans are at a very high level, and it's really useful too. All right, 5 more seconds. Oh yes, good idea, Ken. All right, I'm going to close the poll and show you the results.
Wow, small line.
Not too surprising, to me at least. Okay, we're going to go to the next one. It's going to take another second here. So this is for people whose schools are fully online. It's a check all that apply question. Given that only about 20% of the people responding to the first question are fully online, we aren't going to get that many more questions. So last few seconds to respond, and I'll show you the results.
All over and range of motion.
I'm taking screenshots of these too. You're not the only one out there. Okay, I'm going to switch this to the third question, which is for people who are in the blended or hybrid mode with their campuses. There we go. Okay, about 5 more seconds. All right, I'll show you the results now. Okay, I'm going to leave these on the screen while I just blurt out some instructions or just some context. Through the magic of Zoom, I'm going to separate everyone into one of 4 breakout rooms. where the conveners who spoke at the top are going to lead discussions. They don't have a script. They don't have a set of questions. They want to hear from you about what's happening and what some concerns are. And we're going to try to do that until about 10 minutes after the hour, about 42 minutes from now. I'll give you a 5-minute notice just to give you a chance to wind down your conversations, and then I will bring everyone back to the main room. We are only recording in the main room, and I'll post the recording from our discussions here in the main room. You can, anyways, if you have problems, you can leave the main or the breakout rooms and come back to me. I will be here in the main room, and I can help troubleshoot your technical problems or answer any questions that you have. So give me a second, please, to stop sharing this and move everyone into breakout rooms.
We're represented in my breakout room or handling some kind of hybrid, or in the case of Rice, actual in-person studios. They were blessed with the small size of their cohort to be able to, and the facilities that they have to be able to hold in-person studios with safe distancing. But most of the programs were working on a hybrid model, which of course has its challenges. Some of them going fully online. One of the challenges being questions around studio culture, how to maintain engagement, of course, how to maintain a sensibility about making things that is so crucial to the studio environment quite often, and how to handle things like fabrication labs at UT San Antonio. They were describing it over the summer and going into the fall as a drive-through service where students could use fab labs by sending files to get printed and picked up later, which is a path that we think we'll be following at UNC Charlotte in the fall.
I'm here.
Building access limited after certain hours, usually by 10:30 or so, maybe they're closed up for deep clean and reopened early in the morning. I think Maryland was going to stay open till midnight and open at 7 a.m., but most folks were saying something like 7 to 10, 10:30. Provide for and a fair amount of access while precautions for cleaning and other things. There was a radical question posed to us that I wanted to bring up because I thought it was interesting. The idea that students who work alone or live alone often seem to feel the greatest impact of isolation from the remote learning environment. Students who might live with other friends maybe facilitated a collaborative environment that could be beneficial. And is that something that other schools are seeing, or
Jose, you froze.
I think he froze. Huh.
All right, we'll give him one more second to unfreeze.
Oh.
Maybe Batman can save him. Okay. All right. Well, without prejudice, we'll ask Marilise to jump in. I'll text Jose. If you're here, Marilise.
I don't see Marilise.
Where is Marilise?
Maybe page 2.
I can jump in, Mike.
Go ahead. Thank you.
So a lot of plus ones for things that Jose brought up, but some of the things that were interesting that were discussed that I had not, I mean, we're not there yet in the conversation at UNM. Someone brought up the fact that sanitizing shop equipment can actually destroy shop equipment, and that there are no good disinfectants out there that work, or that would just be highly problematic. So that was one thing we were assuming at UNM, that we would have students come in small groups, and if we use the shops, and then that they would be sanitized between uses. So that's an issue that we now need to look at. And then Luis Rico Gutierrez also talked a little bit about contingency plans, continuity plans that they're asking all faculty and staff to have in place. And I think that's a great idea. And then we also generally talked about policing versus culture, and how do you maintain a hyper-vigilant environment and keep everyone on their toes to be careful, but not let it go to the realm of policing, and how do you maintain a wonderful cultural experience at the same time. And then lastly, how do you ensure that a freshman experience and a first year graduate experience is part of the semester, and what can you do outside of the curriculum or in any way to get students to bond in some way with their cohort and with the campus and the building. I'll call on Lynn.
So I will relay that my breakout room was quite upbeat. In fact, they got a pat on the back from Francis for being so upbeat as a person above them in the administrative hierarchy. But we talked about this as an opportunity to rethink the business as usual. We have a new platform, a new reality. And that gives us an opportunity to rethink the way we do things, but also, I think, to present it to our students as an opportunity to shift the paradigm. It gives us also an opportunity, people noted, to think more carefully about equity, about the student experience across the breadth of our student populations, and to think a bit more, because the intersection between COVID and equity has been pretty revealing. And so how do we really take a hold of that and think about it in relationship to the educational experience? There were a few other points that Robert and Jose had mentioned already, so I won't go through this again. I think there's the degree of uncertainty that everyone feels as kind of an anxiety on the back burner, that anything could change at any moment. And from the faculty's point of view, there's a bit of, I think, anxiety about the sense that there'll be much more to do in order to just maintain the status quo of our regular interactions with our students. And from the administrators, this sense that they're kind of stuck between faculty and the upper administration in terms of exactly how their decision-making processes and what that means for a whole host of things. The other piece that I found pretty interesting is that this has given a number of administrators the opportunity to think carefully about the modes in which they interact with their faculty and their students. What's the appropriate mode given the topic of conversation that needs to be addressed? Is it something where we really need to be in person even if we are 6 feet away, or is it something we can do via a digital means, a video means, or is it a phone question? So I leave you with that and turn it over to, I think, Marilise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we also had a really good conversation, +1 to many of the things that were already said. I won't repeat them. We, in addition to that, had some interesting conversation around faculty unions and how they are responding to the conditions for work. And there were several represented in the room and various points of engagement. We all know nationwide that there are lawsuits in progress, and the unions are weighing in not just on working conditions, but on sort of issues of hires and layoffs and furloughs and so on. And that became an interesting conversation. Obviously, the issues of equity were front and center. among the people in the group, there was a variation of a degree of on-campus engagement and different parts of the population of students, and in some cases of faculty that would be on campus. There seemed to be a lot of enthusiasm on students' part, and maybe less enthusiasm on faculty's part to be on campus. And so trying to negotiate that reality with something that the people in the group were talking about. There was a lot of discussion about MERV 10 to 13 filters and air conditioning systems, about the opportunities for working out of doors in places that have climate that will support that, and when they don't, the buildings that can support that. A lot of discussion about airflow. And there was there was some interesting discussion too about programs that really don't have technology enabled lower division studio experiences. And so the challenge of trying to figure out how to approximate a design studio that has nothing that uses computers in this increasingly technology dependent condition was something that has made some of the programs apparently turn to VR, to AI, to a whole broad new range of technologies well beyond Zoom to be able to address many of these issues. We had Karma was in our group, and she talked about student voices in this context and the happiness that students have to be able to hear from faculty and an opportunity to begin to engage. I think that's where we left it.
Thank you, Marilise.
Sure.
So we have 7 minutes left. I think I'm going to take some prerogative and ask Francis Burnett, maybe we have a president on the call. I would love to hear a president's perspective. We also have 4 conveners from public institutions, and private institutions have a decidedly different context from public institutions. And it doesn't mean Pratt has to speak for every public or private institution, but Francis, I thought I would ask you just to give us a few comments, if you don't mind.
Well, as I said to the group that I was in, the breakout session, I was really impressed by, it turned into a session really looking at the future of higher education and looking at our students' needs, at the fact that they're coming from very, very different environments, and what's our responsibility to make sure that we deliver an education that we took for granted, that everybody shows up in the classroom, they're all the same in some ways. And this, we all know, a very strong light was shone on the students and the various environments they came from, and that maybe this is a way for us to really modulate the way that we're instructing. So that was, I think, fascinating in our section. I can tell you what keeps us up at night. The very questions about, can we deliver an education as best as we can, as well as we did, as better than we did before, but also understand that it's a very fragile environment, and in a moment we can spike. Obviously, at the president, we worry about all of this stuff that's coming out. Are we creating cruise ships with our dormitories? I don't think we actually are. And then what's our responsibility as an institution of higher education in the public health landscape? Because we can actually monitor our students better than they can as they jam 16 people in a small apartment doing the work. And what we also are finding out now, and you may already be really realizing this, is students are returning to their college towns independent of whether they're going to be meeting in person in class or not. And so the fact that we think that they're working alone in their apartment, they are not. They're getting together in somebody else's apartment and doing that work, and we will not test them. We will not know anything about them. And so they're going to be meeting at a bar, they're going to be meeting in their apartment. Is that a responsibility we have? Now, again, I've said this before, we're not messiahs, we're not going to solve everything. But I think many of us feel that we are part of a larger ecosystem in managing both the virus and being responsible to our communities, which include our staff, our faculty, and our students. And no matter what we do, we have staff who are taking care of our campuses And I think that's, and those are our Black and brown staff who are taking care of our labs, who are taking care of our cleanups. And when our faculty are screaming about, I'm not coming in, where's the equity lens then? And I think there's a lot of issues and pretty complex. I am so appreciative of the work that, I mean, obviously I was a faculty member for decades and then moved into various opportunities, but the fact that our faculty, our administrators and our faculty are thinking about the very ways we carefully attune the pedagogy to our students, you're remarkable. So I thank you all that you're thinking about this with us.
Thank you, Frances. We have some more time for questions or comments. We have some good comments in the chat. Professor Richardson from Morgan State asked about studio class sizes, which I think is an important thing. In some ways contingent on space that you have and instructor capacity, I suppose, but
Yes. So just I asked a question in my group. Just want to collect data on what's existing capacity. Now we're going against our administrators, and they're questioning, why is studio so small? Right? We get this all the time, and we're trying to say, no, this is part of design education. So I'm just trying to collect as much information as possible, but also want to know if the administrators are forcing people to go different ways because of finances. So thanks for letting me share that.
sure.
If I can one of the things that we found out that might be useful is the university came in and looked at our studios and said, you can only have 20 people in here in a room that normally saw 100. And we went through it with them, and they said, when they realized that students are working at desks, and that once they're separated and there's plexiglass shields, they said, oh no, that's not a gathering space. As long as they're not having a lecture there, they can be there. So we actually found that we were able to increase the capacities of studios as long as we had facilities elsewhere where faculty could meet with the students in the open air or almost open air in smaller ways, things like that. So you might want to use that trick.
No, we're actually doing that, right? So
okay.
we're okay with that one, where we have, we traditionally have about 200 plus seats. We're going to shrink it down to 100 or so for spacing. And we're trying not to have instruction in studio, but actually where they work is really about the class, right? Where an instructor usually had 12 students in their section, doesn't have to go to 20 students that they're trying to convene, do desk crits and things of that nature. I just want to know if the administrators are looking at how we teach courses, meaning the capacity of classes. And I think that's where we're getting some push back, and I'm fascinated to know what other schools are looking at doing. But thank you for that, Aaron, I appreciate it.
We're not increasing, I always say we're not increasing the ratios. I mean, we're doing hybrid modes, or flipped classroom, strategies, but we have not lost faculty, and so we're maintaining our ratios. So.
Thanks, Louise.
Any other comments? We're up at just about 1/2 hour. So
Mike, let's do more of these.
Yeah.
I was going to say, has
Bronco.
this been helpful?
Please do another one of these, man. I'm like, we're dying over here, but this is helpful.
Mike, this might be a good topic to revisit first part of August, right when we're at that threshold of play. I think in the next 2.5, 3 weeks, there are going to be a lot of decisions made, and it would be good to have another conversation to see how people are handling it.
Yeah.
Mike, I was going to say every week because it's changing so fast.
Mike, we've heard a lot of people too that are being forced back into the classroom, and I just wonder, just so those people that feel like they're being violated. I mean, civil disobedience is always an option, and you guys should organize. I mean, I live in a state with a sane, get this, Republican governor who has actually been doing a pretty good job at keeping things. He actually criticizes the president constantly on this stuff. So, I feel for a lot of folks I heard talking about going back into the classroom, being forced in by the administration. And, basically stand up for your rights.
Thanks, Brian.
And there are
so
many
this is-
institutions that are trying to give the faculty their preferred conditions, because otherwise it doesn't work. If you force somebody in, how are they going to possibly project in that classroom? How can that possibly work? I just want to say, it's just not the model.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. We have mental health of our own, of our constituent groups, and there are multiple groups that we have to take care of.
Yep. Well, we will have another one of these, and I invite you to that, because the 70% that are in hybrid mode, in 10 days, it could be like half of you are back fully online.
Back fully online.
Every week. Yes. All right. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thanks to the 4 conveners for keeping the conversation going and for reporting out. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.